All right, so ladies and gentlemen, section 3.3 is called completing the square. So what I want you to do is remember that x squared minus 8x plus 16 can be factored to. So remember what I told you earlier. I can write this as, since a coefficient of 1, I have x and I have x. I look at this term here. If it's positive, I have to look at this term here. Remember, if it's negative, one's automatically positive, one's automatically negative. But if I look at that one there, this first one I have circled is positive. I look at the second one, it's negative, so that means that both of them are negative. All right? And then think to yourself, what are two numbers when I multiply them equals 16, yet when I add them equals negative 8? And you would tell me it's minus 4 and minus 4. Or, notice how since we have two of them, we can write this as x minus 4 squared. So this is what is called a perfect square trinomial. So if you can set up a quadratic equation such that perfect square trinomial equals a constant, this is just the u squared equals d from section 3.1. All right, so let's go ahead and look at a couple of these. So example 1 here, which I just did for you, all right, x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 25. You know, on that one there, we can write that as x minus 4 squared is equal to 25. Remember, to undo a square, we're going to square root it. So x minus 4 is equal to, and again, since we are now in Algebra 2, we should put the plus or minus there. All right. And then we know that x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus 5. And remember, our goal is still to get the x by itself. So I'm going to go up here for you. I'm going to get x is equal to, now since I have the plus or minus, I'm going to put the 4 in front of that. And then I have two paths there. I have the top path. So if I do the top path, x is going to equal 9. And if I take the bottom path, x is going to equal 4 minus 5, or x is going to equal negative 1. All right. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. After a while, ladies and gentlemen, you'll kind of see how this works. You'll be able to start spotting perfect square trinomials. So the second one here, I have x squared minus 10x plus 25. Well, that's going to be x. And if you're not sure, let's go ahead and work it out again for you. So I'll have an x and I'll have an x. Since this one here is positive, I look at that one there. They're both negative. And what are two numbers when I multiply them? Give me 5. And when I add them, give me negative 10. That'd be negative 5 and negative 5. Right? Or that's going to equal 12. Or we can say x minus 5 squared is equal to 12. And we're going to just do what we did up above. So I'll get x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 12. Now remember, the square root of 12 you can actually simplify to x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus, let's see, the square root of is equal to, is equal to, remember, the square root of 12 we could write as the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. So I'll get that x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus, the square root of 4 is 2, so 2 radical 3. All right. And then again, I'm going to take the 5 over, so I'll get x is equal to 5 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3. All right. So when I do that, this here is your exact solution. Look and see what they're asking you, ladies and gentlemen. This is your exact solution. all right? If they ask you to approximate it, you can plug it into your calculator. Again, you're going to go the top path. If you do the top path, you'll get x is approximately equal to 8.5. Look and see how many places they want it rounded to. Or x is approximately, if I take the bottom path, x is approximately 1.5. All right, so this here is your approximate solution. Okay, all right. So if you don't have a perfect square trinomial, you can still solve a quadratic equation by completing the square. So to complete the square for a quadratic expression of the form x squared plus bx, first, number one, find b divided by 2. And we're going to do an example here for you. Second, square b divided by 2. 3, add b over 2 squared to x squared plus bx. All right? So we're going to do that. So find the value of c here. That makes x squared plus 22x plus c a perfect square trinomial. Then write the square as a binomial. All right? So I started the first one here. So we have b is equal to 22. Well, b divided by 2, well, that'll be 22 divided by 2. That'll equal 11. All right? So if that's the case, then we're going to have 11 squared here. So we'll see that c is equal to 121. So now I'm going to write it as a square. So we know then that we have x squared plus 22x plus 121. To write it as the square of a binomial, well, again, if we're looking at what I just did on the first two up there for you, this will be x plus 11 squared. And you can try it. You can see that this will work. So you're going to use this now, ladies and gentlemen, to solve equations that aren't perfect square trinomials. Okay? So I'm going to show you how I do it, and hopefully you can do the same thing. All right? So example 3, x squared minus 18x plus 5. They want us to solve that by completing the square. So first get x squared minus 18x by itself. And then what I suggest is that you leave a blank on both sides, which I left there for you. All right? And then what I say is to take the 18x. So you're going to take this one here. And you're going to have it. What is half of negative 18? And you would tell me it's negative 9. So we're going to write this as x minus 9 squared. And then I'm going to take this negative 9 here, and I'm going to square it. And negative 9 squared is 81. So whatever I put on one side of the equal sign that wasn't there before, I have to put on the other side of the equal sign. That's why I have it over here. Okay? So, and if we add that up, we'll get negative 5 plus 81. That is going to give us 76. All right? So now I'll get x minus 9. Remember, to get rid of a square, we square root it. And then we get, well, let's first see. I'm going to go off to the side here. Can we simplify 76? Well, I know 76 is 2 times 38. And I know that 38 I can make as 2 times 19. So remember, I just used a factor tree. 19 is prime, and so are 2's. If I have 2 that are the same, I can bring that outside of the radical. All right, so I have 2 of them there that are the same. So I can now write this as x minus 9 is equal to plus or minus 2 times the square root of 19. And then again, to get x by itself, I'm going to take the minus 9, move it over. That'll be 9 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 19. Again, I didn't ask you to approximate it, so that'll work. All right. So now this only works when the coefficient of x squared is equal to 1. But sometimes you can still do it, so read the directions carefully and look at it. All right. For example, 4 here, it says solve 2x squared minus 2x plus 60 is equal to 0 by completing the square. Well, if we look at it here, I have a 2 there, I have 20 there, I have 60 there. So I know I can factor out a 2. So if I factor out a 2, I'll get x squared minus 10x plus 30 is equal to 0. Now remember, I can divide by 2 now. I can divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 0 divided by 2 is just going to be 0. So now I have x squared minus 10x plus 30 is equal to 0. Okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take x squared minus 10x. I'm going to put it by itself. So I have to move that 30 over. And I'm going to put in a blank there. I'm going to move that 30 over so it becomes negative now. And I'm going to add a blank on this side too. All right, so now again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have this. So what is half of negative 10? That's 5, negative 5. And then I'm going to square the minus 5. That becomes 25. And that becomes 25. All right, so x minus 5 squared is equal to negative 30 plus 25, or negative 5. We're going over here. So I'll get x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 5. Uh-oh, the negative's under the radical, ladies and gentlemen. What do we do? Well, we have to take and get an I. Remember, I is the square root of negative 1. So I can write this as I root 5. And again, get x by itself. Okay. By moving that 5 over, 5 plus or minus I root 5. And that's your final answer. And then finally, recall that the vertex form of a quadratic equation is y is equal to a x minus 8 squared plus k, where h and k is the vertex. You can write a quadratic function in vertex form by completing the square. Example, write y is equal to 4x squared plus 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. In vertex form, then identify the vertex. So on this one here, the only difference is now I have 2 variables, not 1. So if I have 2 variables, I still have the x squared plus 4x, all right? But now I'm going to kind of separate the 1 from it. So now I'm going to put a plus here, and I'm going to put a blank, all right? So I'm going to kind of group all of that together, and then I have my plus 1 on the outside, but now since I'm on the same side of the equal sign, since I have a plus there, I have to put a minus there, all right? Just think, if I would have had that over on the other side, it would have been a plus, all right? So just think of it that way, and now we're just still going to do the same thing. What I have in the parentheses there, I'm going to have the 2. It's plus 2. I'll have x plus 2 squared. And then I square it. I'll put it there. Square root of 2 is 4. And I'll put the 4 here. So I'll have x plus 2 squared minus 3. Remember, on the vertex, it's going to be the opposite here. So my vertex is going to be negative 2. So it's the opposite. And here, for my y value, it's the same. So I'll have -2 and -3, and that's my vertex. All right, hope you enjoyed that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.